What was the major inspiration that led you to focus on instructional design and e-learning? Was there anything in particular?
There was the creative piece and the problem-solving piece. And so they're in training and development, and when you're looking at really any industry, there's a need that arises from new people coming on, for new technology being deployed. The need becomes we need to upskill these people.
E-learning has transformed the way we approach education, offering new opportunities to empower women in engineering. In today's fast-evolving landscape, e-learning provides a flexible, accessible pathway for women to advance their careers, regardless of their location or personal commitments. By harnessing the power of online education, we can bridge the gap between women's passion for engineering and the resources they need to excel. In this episode, we're joined by Charlene Gaither, Learning Project Manager and Scrum Master at Duke Energy Corporation, to explore how e-learning can break down barriers, offer flexible learning solutions, and create a supportive community for women pursuing engineering careers. Tune in as we dive into the impact of online education on fostering growth and leadership for women in the engineering field. I'm your host, Rebecca Swaby, and this is the Women in Engineering podcast. And with that, let's jump right into today's episode. Today, I have with me Charlene Gaither. Welcome to the Women in Engineering podcast. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. I am honored to be here.
That's great. So to start, tell me a little bit about yourself and what led you to become a 3D learning professional, particularly in industries like engineering.
Well, I started out in the beginning of my career as a network administrator, so I went right into working on networks and working at the help desk to support the transportation organization. And as most industries, as things grow and begin to move, and we had to bring on more technicians, there was a need for training. And I ended up becoming the trainer at UPS for our technical support help desk and for our field support personnel. And at that time, I didn't realize that I was doing instructional design. I knew that I always liked learning and development. As growing up, I thought I would be a teacher. And so when this opportunity presented itself, it seemed perfect. And what I was doing was using what I'd learned, the software development lifecycle. I approached that as, okay, we have a problem. We need to train new people, and we need to provide continuous learning for our seasoned technicians as new technology became available. And so I did that and later learned that there was a discipline called instructional design, which very much closely relates itself to the process of the software development lifecycle.
That's so interesting. So it sounds like in some ways you just stumbled into instructional design without even realizing it.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes, I did.
Amazing. And it's very similar to the engineering design process, it sounds like, when you're creating content.
It is. It is. And so that's where the connection came for me. Once I learned that, then I really decided to dive into that field and extend my learning credentials in that area.
Okay, so you got a taste and then went back to school, got some more education.
I was like,
amazing.
I designed this. I could have been, written a book about it, and didn't even know it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what was the major inspiration that led you to focus on instructional design and e-learning? Was there anything in particular?
There was the creative piece and the problem-solving piece. And so they're in training and development, and when you're looking at really any industry, there's a need that arises from new people coming on, for new technology being deployed, the need becomes we need to upskill these people so that they know the new technology, or we need to train them to learn the industry standards and processes. And so that allows you to tap into problem solving, as well as, once you understand what the problem is, what is the solution? Is it going to be just a job aid to help them? Is this going to be in instructor-led training or an e-learning, depending on the number of people that have to be trained and the time frame in which these people need to gain this knowledge? And so it mirrored itself so well to what I had already learned, and it added that creativity, and it tapped into my desire to provide instruction as being a stand-up facilitator also.
Okay, amazing.
Yes,
Especially on that creativity piece, because I know, as an engineer myself, that's often a big motivation for going into the engineering field is creative problem solving. Do you have
yes.
any specific stories that you can share just to give our listeners an idea of, what is the process of developing new instructional design and curriculum like? And how did you apply that creative problem solving?
So I ended up back into the electrical energy space. I started out in my career. I was admitted to UNC Charlotte as an electrical engineer, but I tend to lean more to the computer science. And so I changed my major. So it's interesting that I find myself back full circle back into the electrical and energy space.
Yeah.
And so I've been working for the past 7 years on a project that is training the engineers and operators at Duke Energy. And that process of learning the new tools, learning all the things that an operator needs to do their job, and being able to develop a curriculum that not only is going to help them with the current deployment, but also give them an opportunity in the trainers at the local locations to be able to onboard people with that same curriculum. That was the creative challenge for me. And so what I did was come up with a nice package that included videos, like 5-minute videos for people to just see various pieces of functionality and learn certain things, as well as a 3-day instructor-led curriculum that allowed the particular facilitator to be able to take pieces of that and craft it based on the levels of the operators or engineers that was in that class. And so if they went through the curriculum in full, that would be great for someone that's new. Or they can go just to the advanced pieces of that curriculum and upskill the engineers. And so that allowed me to creatively put together some just-in-time training and some instructor-led training, as well as some e-learnings that can be accessed at any time and would, fulfill the need of having a sustainable curriculum as well as some just-in-time documentation.
So very flexible and customizable, it sounds like.
Yes, yes,
Good.
yes.
To bring it back to women in engineering, so how do you think these tools can help women in engineering thrive?
For sure, when you're looking at developing e-learning tools or just the instructional design process, that skill just gives you the ability to attack whatever new challenges or new opportunities that come your way. One of the things I found when I was training technicians or anytime I'm training is that problem solving is not something that's easily trained, right? It's not something you're going to pick up in a day. So the more processes and methodologies that you're training yourself and that you're learning about, the better you become at looking at a situation and being able to define a solution and understand how this problem can be better served.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So, anything more you can add? Tell us about your training programs and how they can support women in engineering in general, if there's anything more you want to expand on.
Yeah, so one of the things that outside of the instructional design and the e-learning that I'm involved in, I'm also involved in the Agile process. And so our team has developed over time. We were a Scrum team and then we became a Kanban team. And so in that early on, everyone was being trained. So our whole project team was being trained and certifications were available. Well, as the years have gone on, that training has fallen to the wayside and it has become on the onus of the individuals, new individuals coming on the team to get their own training. And so what I've done as part of the smaller training team is to build a training curriculum to help all of our new team members become familiar with Agile and the whole Agile mindset, as well as training them on our current Kanban process and how they can use what they know in instructional design and e-learning development and how that fits into the Agile framework. And so I developed an onboarding curriculum for them so that they wouldn't feel left out as they're going to all of these different ceremonies and not really understanding what's going on.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, what advancements in learning technologies do you believe have the most potential to support women in engineering, especially in terms of career development?
So definitely the latest and greatest is artificial intelligence and keeping abreast of how that is not only influencing learning and development, but all of the industries. And so making sure that you're keeping up with Chat GPT and all of the new things, Copilot that are available, this is going to help keep you on top in terms of being able to pivot where you are or even look for other engineering opportunities.
Absolutely. Okay. I know you're involved in the Association for Talent and Development. How has that helped you advocate for women's learning and performance improvement in engineering more broadly?
Yes. So what being part of that organization has helped me to do is really have a sense of pride around the learning and development field. Oftentimes in industry, learning and development is something that's, a last minute thought. It's not something that's always at the forefront, and it is one of the most important pieces of upskilling the workforce and making sure everyone has a fair opportunity to perform well at their jobs. And so for women, I've had the opportunity to not only serve in leadership with ATD and being out in the open and actually delivering training at national conferences, women seeing other women in those key leadership positions encourages them and helps them to understand that, hey, I could do that too. So not only can I be a leader in my workplace by making sure that I'm staying abreast of new technologies and always reinventing myself, but I also can do that in my professional organization as well. And so that certainly has increased my leadership skills. It increased my network and really helped me to focus as an individual on what it is I really love. right? Because
Amazing.
when you're an engineer and you love to solve problems and you have all of these talents, sometimes it's hard to focus in on what it is. It's like, ooh, I could go into software development. Oh, I could be a project manager. Oh, there's so many talents, and that's a wonderful thing. But really, ATD helped me focus on what it is I really like. And I love learning and development, and I love staying in the technical field. And so I have been successful in just focusing on those things.
I can really relate to that as an entrepreneur, wanting to try everything and going all over the map. So how did they help you figure out what to focus on? I'm curious.
So,
What specifically did...
one of the things the first thing I did, I in leadership with ATD, I was VP of programs. And so I was responsible for bringing in speakers to our monthly meetings. And we had a speaker, and I meant to write her name down. I'll have to post that on one of my social media platforms. But she did a presentation, and essentially it boiled down to this: you already have all the tools you need to be successful. And for me at that time, that was a very powerful statement, because I was transitioning from, doing mostly technical support and network engineering into the learning and development field. And I was struggling on, what do I need to take? What certifications do I need to take? Well, I need to do this. I need to do that. And when I heard that I already had the skills I needed, that was a game changer for me. So that then allowed me to focus. So when I was in my job search, when I was deciding what type of professional development I wanted to take for that year, that helped me to focus on that. Is this going to be a good return on investment for me? What am I doing? Right? Stop applying for all of these jobs that fit you, that you could do, but what is it you really do? And you really already have those skills. And I had to trust that I already had the skills. And so I then began to start only focusing on learning and development opportunities that would keep me in a technical training space. And since then, I haven't had an issue with jobs and with getting my next opportunity. Oftentimes, I get a consultant role, and it's only supposed to be 3 months, and it ends up being 8 months. Or in the case currently, it's 7 years. I've been
Wow.
consultant with Duke
Yeah.
Energy.
Yeah.
And so just being in that space, and that was ATD, each month bringing in new people that could help support you and could help give you the information that you need to be better at your learning and development.
You said so many important things there. I just want to, highlight a few of them just to go back. One thing that really stuck with me is you said, considering that you already have what you need, because the tendency is to think, I need to become more, I need to train more, I need to be all these things to get the opportunities. But, what you learned is shift that and start imagining you already have everything that you need. And then how can you go forward and use that in a way that's meaningful to you? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yes.
And then the other thing that you touched on is, and if I understood correctly, it sounds like you did a bit of like an audit of all of your skills and then figured out how they can be applied to different opportunities, which took you into new areas. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Amazing.
For sure.
We do have a few more minutes left, so I was just hoping to just ask you a few more questions, if that's okay, if you don't mind.
That is wonderful. Yes.
Okay. You talked a little bit about how important it is to continue learning throughout your career and some of the challenges, especially that women in engineering face. I've personally experienced this too. Sometimes it's difficult to balance getting the work done and then advancing your knowledge and your skills at the same time when you have pressure on you. So personally, that was one of the barriers I faced. Is there anything that you've seen from your experience that's specific to women in engineering that at times can prevent them from learning and advancing their skills?
Definitely from a learning and advancement. Oftentimes, you may run into roadblocks is when you're seeking mentors or you're seeking to maybe job shadow or partner with someone to get additional information. Sometimes that can prevent a barrier for you. What I found is still, in this male dominated field, that they see you, they understand that you're intelligent and that you have a lot of answers, but sometimes you're still overlooked, right?
Really? Yeah.
And so I would encourage women to not let that be a barrier to continue to push forward, to continue to seek partnerships, even if sometimes it becomes a little bit uncomfortable. What I did was use the Agile Manifesto in terms of seeking out people that I could shadow, because you made a great point about time. And there's a lot of time in which work has to be done. And part of our Agile framework is that there should be 2 weeks that are left at the end of our 3-month block of work to just do innovation and planning. But oftentimes we're just doing work and catching up. Right? So innovation and planning is thrown out the window. So one of the things I did was put it through the entire program increment so that I would, when we're planning for our 3 months of work, I seek out people in technology, so I make sure and keep my technical skills up. I seek out people on the development team to say, hey, let's schedule an hour a week during these 3 months so that I can job shadow you, so that we can do some knowledge transfers. And the whole premise is an agile premise, right? So I position it so they can't say no, right?
Yeah.
There's no information that is not available to everybody on the team. And so when I position it that way, I haven't gotten any pushback. And so I leave it fluid so that, I know they're doing a lot of work. They have their own deadlines, and sometimes they can't meet with me during that time. But if there's a meeting that you can include me in, then include me in that meeting so I can just be an observer. And so I have used that to be able to not only partner with other members of the larger Agile project, but to make sure that my skills are staying sharp and, overcoming the barrier of being overlooked sometimes. And they can overlook me, but they can't deny my knowledge, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to continue to get what I need to be successful. And that's just one of the ways that I've found that works for me.
So much wisdom there. And I know you're a Scrum Master, but some of our listeners might not be familiar with the Agile Manifesto, for example. Can you just give us a really high-level view of that so that people can catch up?
Agile itself is a mindset in terms of how you're thinking about your work. And it is based on really improving and being lean in your processes. And it is based on a 12-point manifesto and 4 pillars. I won't go into all of that, but the gist of it is making sure that you're working in a lean fashion. That's just the mindset. And then there are frameworks that are available to help you produce that type of mindset in your work. And one of the methodologies is SAFE. And SAFE is a scaled agile framework. And you have different roles on your team. So for instance, you will have a Scrum Master, which will be responsible for the daily and the weekly task of your group. and they will monitor those tasks that you have and making sure everyone is staying in step of what we agreed to do in a certain period of time. And so when you're in a Scrum methodology, you do what they call sprints. And it could be 1 week, it could be 3 weeks. In that 1 to 3 week time frame, you have particular tasks that have to be done. So you do those tasks, and that sprint is done, and now you're doing another task. So it's really kind of like I'm developing the most valuable product in 1 to 3 weeks. And then I'm developing another one. And so in order to manage all of that, the Scrum Master has daily touch points with them to say, how are you doing? And in that meeting, they'll say, yesterday I worked on this, and today I'm going to work on Y, right? And so the Scrum Master keeps all of that work going, and is getting the objectives and the focus from the product owner of that team. And then everyone else would be considered the individual contributors. And I don't know if that was too detailed.
No, that's amazing. No, that's great. It sounds like it's a great way, especially with that daily touch point. Things are not going to go too far in the wrong direction. You're driving that bus together, getting everyone's, what did you do yesterday? What are you stuck on? So important.
Exactly.
And a little while ago, you talked about, there's the manifesto when everything is executed perfectly, amazing. But you touched on, sometimes things don't go perfectly. And that's the same in life. That's the same in work. But it sounds like you had some really good strategies, and, you don't shy away from that. You lean into it. So if there's anything more you want to say on that, I know, for myself, I always want things to go perfectly. I'm sure some of our listeners can relate.
Yes. So one of the things early on this project, I was so excited about Agile, this new methodology, because again, we engineers, we like processes. We like, oh, wow, everybody is going to do the same thing, and this is guiding us. I was eating Agile up. And so one of the things I was tasked with developing what our training plan was going to be for Florida. And I had this wonderful plan laid out. I developed this training plan. I had this large calendar in which I outline all of the sprints and when these pieces of information is going to be done. I mean, I cut out pieces and taped it. Oh my goodness.
Sounds spectacular.
It was amazing. Yeah. And then the focus changed, and we were no longer going to deploy in Florida. And I was like, really? I did all this magnificent work, and now I got to shift focus. And so I did. And I just packaged that up, saved any files that I had. And I was able to use, though, the framework that I had built in the training plan for this other jurisdiction. And so then I had a platform. And then we eventually did come back to Florida, and I could come back to these wonderful plans that I had. But yeah, you have to be flexible. You have to be able to shift and just, not take it personal.
That is solid advice. Very good. All right. Well, just a couple questions left. I have to ask you, what's one final piece of advice that you can share with women in engineering that are looking to improve their skills or advance their leadership roles?
Yes. I mentioned earlier about artificial intelligence and learning about that, but I want women in engineering to definitely stay abreast of the new technology, but I don't want you to feel like that's like, oh my, it's the end of the world, it's gonna take over. The key thing that I found in an article I read in Forbes about the top jobs that AI won't replace. They listed all these jobs, and most of them were in the medical field. That makes sense. But the key thing that article ended with, and what resonates with me, and what I found in my career, is that AI will never replace the creativity, the problem solving, and the emotional intelligence that you will bring to any project as a woman in engineering. So keep that in the back of your mind. As long as you keep those skills sharp, you won't ever have to worry about any new technology
Your strength is
overcoming you.
yourself.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
what you can bring.
That's it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Such great advice. Okay. Anything I didn't ask that you want to talk about? Any last questions?
Is there anything, because of course I wrote up all of these nice
Yeah, take your
talking
time.
points. I think we talked about of everything. I did want to shout out, my alma mater, University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and the Williams States League College of Engineering. So I do want to just kind of give some credence to the organization that made me.
That's great. Good.
Yes, and women in engineering. I really appreciate this opportunity. It is just a reminder of the work that I do and that it is important.
Well, you've shared so much that our listeners will appreciate. It's been so great talking to you. And if any of our audience members want to learn more about your work or how to get in touch, is there anything you can share?
Yes, definitely. I am on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Charlene Gaither. And I'm also on Instagram at Gaither Glow. So I also have a podcast, and Get Your Glow On, in which I really help empower women around self-care, opulence, restoration. So yeah, all of those things. Definitely check me out at Gaither Glow on Instagram and Explore and Adore on Facebook.
Amazing. I hope all of our audience goes and checks that out now. I'm going to check out your podcast. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Take care. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you won't miss out on upcoming episodes featuring interviews with inspiring women engineers, discussions about industry trends, and so much more. Go to womeninengineeringpodcast.com, where you'll find a summary of the key points discussed in today's episode, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during the call. Until next time, may your engineering endeavors be remarkable as the women whose stories we're sharing. Stay curious, keep innovating, and engineer a better future.